My wife and I took a trip to London and then to Ireland in the spring of this year, 2025. Here in this map of the British Isles, you can see the geography over which we traveled by air between London and Dublin, and then by rental car in Ireland, marked in purple, showing stops at Dublin, Kells, and Clonmel. The historic sea route of the monks from Iona, Scotland, to Kells circa 806 AD is shown in green. Today's service is about the Book of Kells and Celtic spirituality that came to light during our trip to Ireland in the spring of this year. It was quite an adventure, which sparked deeper research into the cultural impact and history of the Book of Kells. To help organize my presentation for some clarity, I have organized my material in two parts. Part one is how the trip unfolded and the observation of synchronicity along the way is one of those things that I could not see until after the trip, only in retrospect. It was an adventure in time and space. Now, part two is about the Book of Kells and the layers of meaning I discovered, which continue to this day as I keep reading and getting deeper into the symbolism. This was an adventure and remains an adventure of mind and spirit. Hopefully you have some of the sense of discovery and awe that I felt along the way in both parts 1 and 2. Next, coming up, is a video trailer. This is about the first inspiration that I had as I was very interested in the animation of the time. The trailer is called The Secret of Kells. It was nominated as an Academy Award nomination in 2010. That's the first time I ever heard of the Book of Kells. And notice, as we watched the trailer, the spirit guides, and in Celtic mythology, these are known as aislinge, which can take on many forms like fairies or angels and shapeshift. And so Aislinn is a common Irish name, also usually for a female, and that's the name of one of the characters in the movie. Next, there will be a video of the meaning of one of the symbols, the triskelion.
I have lived through many ages. I have seen suffering in the darkness. Yet, I have seen beauty thrive in the most fragile of places.
I mean, what is it? A set of spirals? Well, what does it mean? Does it have any special significance? Is it even a Celtic symbol? Does it have a spiritual meaning? Well, today I want to look into it and get to the bottom of just exactly what this symbol means. So let's first take a closer look at the Triskele. So let's start by tracing this spiral out. And we'll start at the top spiral, and if we follow the spiral all the way out, we start at the centre and we'll start to move anti-clockwise, and we'll follow the spiral all the way out, and we can see that it starts to form the second spiral, and that spiral spirals on inwards to create the second spiral. If you follow that around, we'll then come back out anti-clockwise and form the third spiral. Which in turn forms the first spiral. So really, none of these spirals have any beginning or any end. Each spiral is formed from the previous spiral and seems to represent infinity and interconnection. Now, these spirals are found right throughout Britain, Ireland, and Northern Europe, and many date back to the Neolithic period. So then, they're not a Celtic symbol, I hear you say. Well, clearly, if they're found on Neolithic monuments and we've dated them back to Neolithic times, then surely they can't have their origins in the Celtic world. And this is true. Their origins belong to a period much earlier than the Celtic Iron Age. But the Celts would have seen these symbols, and they knew they were placed upon sacred monuments. And so they knew of these symbols, and they also knew of the sacred number 3.
So earlier this year, my wife and I were planning to go to London for a 2-week visit to her daughter and son-in-law. It felt like we needed to be there soon, but it was not an emergency. You know, Barry Peterson had moved to Ireland last year, and we thought that might be a chance to visit him and his partner B, since it was in the neighborhood, so to speak. And when Barry came to speak with us at the Unitarians in Pomona, it was March 16th, about Irish legends and slavery, he brought me some maps, brochures, and one pamphlet about the Abbey at Iona. Now, my story gets more interesting if you start to see the synchronicity of events occurring in my life, which I used to call coincidences. In March, I was also invited to join a book study group at the New Hampstead Presbyterian Church. The book was The Rebirthing of God by John Philip Newell. I compared that book to Emerson's Harvard Divinity School address in my sermon on God, and that was June 1st this year. Now, the minister at New Hampstead Presbyterian Church, Reverend Angela Madelone, led the discussion, and it turned out she was planning to join the author, that would be Newell, on a retreat to the Abbey at Iona, the same place that was the origin of the Book of Kells. Newell was the warden at the Abbey at Iona and now leads retreats there. So we booked our tickets to London round trip. Later, we decided when to visit Barry and B. It was at the end of March and the first days of April. And as we searched for the best connection by air from London to Ireland, there were several possibilities of airports on both sides. We finally decided on a London-Dublin round trip. Looking for things to do in Dublin, what popped to top of the most popular attraction was the Book of Kells experience at Trinity College. Didn't know till then where the Book of Kells was stored or that it even existed, but my curiosity about the secret drew me to that attraction. So we made arrangements to stay with Barry and Beef for a few days and then go back to Dublin to tour the city and see the Book of Kells exhibit. We reserved a hotel in the neighborhood of Trinity College, the neighborhood being called Temple Bar. We left for London March 25th from Newark, and that same day, I had an appointment with my naturopath in Bardonia, Dr. Mark Sanders. I told him I was leaving in the evening for London and going to Dublin as well. Oh, he said, you must go to the Hill of Tara, less than an hour from the airport. He said that there was a very strong vortex there. Well, that made up my mind of when to arrive in Dublin so that we could go right to the Hill of Tara. That's Tara, first thing when we arrived in Dublin, and that would be then on the way to Barry's home in Clonmel. We rented a car from the airport and made our way to the Hill of Tara. At the Hill of Tara gift shop, I purchased a book called Aisling, Discovering Keys in the Irish Celtic Mysteries. The title of that book popped out at me because Aisling, as I just mentioned, was the ghost character in the Secret of Kells movie. I took the book home for reading later, and as I started to research Celtic spirituality for this talk, I was drawn into another realm completely new to me. It was as if I just went down the rabbit hole. But it did provide some keys to get a deeper understanding of the Book of Kells symbolism. The Hill of Tara indeed had a strong vortex, stronger than anything I'd ever experienced in Hawaii or Sedona. It nearly knocked me off my feet as I had to use my walking cane to steady myself between the two stones in the Latter-day Cemetery that were part of the church nearby. And then we went on to Clonmel. Here we see our friend at breakfast and the view of his backyard with historic church and towers in the landscape. On to the Well of St. Patrick the next day. The plaque reads as a thank you to the Southern California Irish Israeli Club for funds to help restore the site. You see the bubbles from a natural spring here at St. Patrick's Well. You can see bubbles from the aquifer coming right up into the ground. It's a spring. And there's the caretaker, as he calls himself. He's unofficial. His name is David. He takes care of the place. A few days later, we were in Dublin at Trinity College and the old library to view the actual transcript, a single 2-page folio of the Book of Kells. Photography was not allowed there. The Book of Kells experience is in the modern Red Building. What follows next is an immersive experience that gives more detail in the imagery and history of the Book of Kells. The video was captured live by me on my camera phone.
The text was written using natural inks and pigments, and it is believed that just a few scribes were involved in writing all the words that the Book of Kells contains. But the book was made in dangerous times. A single wave could easily have swept them and the precious book away. But it proved no safer. The book was stolen, thought lost forever, and then found months later buried underground. Its casing, which is believed to have been ornamented with gold and jewels, was never seen again. But thankfully, the rest of the book survived. Returned to the church at Kells, the book remained there until civil unrest meant that it was safe there no longer. In 1661, the Bishop of Meath gifted it to Trinity College, Dublin, where it remains to this day. Scholars and visitors alike have studied it ever since, contemplating its meaning, and ever in awe of the beauty of the world-famous manuscript.
So now, focusing on the Book of Kells, that's an illuminated manuscript gospel, the 4 Gospels created by Celtic monks around the year 800 AD, widely regarded as a masterpiece of medieval art. It contains the 4 Gospels, but written in Latin, accompanied by an astonishingly intricate illustrations and ornamentation. The manuscript celebrated for its vibrant colors, interlacing patterns, and fantastical depictions of humans, animals, mythical creatures, and I might add some other symbols. And at its core, the Book of Kells is a Christian text, and it reflects the religious heritage of early medieval Ireland. Its pages are filled with Christian iconography, including images of the Christ, the Virgin Mary, the apostles, and other biblical scenes. The artistry also reveals Celtic traditions, distinctive knotwork, spirals, motifs inspired by ancient Irish and insular art. Its primary focus is Christianity, and the book weaves together the spiritual traditions of Christian scripture and the aesthetic heritage of Celtic culture, creating a vivid testament to the fusion of faith and artistry and Irish monastic life. My introduction to this work of Kells, of art and religion, was when I saw the movie, The Secret of Kells, and blending in Irish folklore and myth and history, the film uses a descriptive visual style that pays homage to the intricate artwork of the original manuscript. But it also introduces some of the mysticism of Celtic culture that still remains in Ireland to this day. The Secret of Kells was released in 2009, and the movie received critical acclaim, as I had mentioned, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2010. And the book is believed to have originated at the monastery founded by St. Columba on the island of Iona. That's off the west coast of Scotland in an area known as the Hebrides. Around the 8th century or maybe early 9th century, monks from Iona, seeking refuge from Viking raids, I think it was actually 806, provided the manuscript and the skills and traditions to complete it at the Abbey of the Kells in the County Meath, Ireland. It was here, among the quiet cloisters and spiritual devotion of the Kells at Abbey, that the Book of Kells was likely completed, weaving together the monastic artistry, faith, and heritage of the ancient spirituality of the Celts and earlier tribes, I might mention, with Christian iconography. Now, I think it's important to also understand that the reason they were doing this is because most of the people, if they were to look at the book, were illiterate. They certainly didn't know Latin and Greek in some places in the book. And so it remained in the monastic communities for centuries as a revered religious and artistic treasure, survived periods of upheaval, including frequent Viking raids and later social and political changes that swept through Ireland. By the 17th century, the Abbey of Kells had declined in prominence, especially after the dissolution of many monastic institutions during the Reformation. During this period of religious and social transformation in Ireland, many important manuscripts and religious artifacts faced the threat of loss or destruction. In 1653, in the turbulent context of the Cromwellian Ireland, it was decided that the Book of Kells, along with other valuable manuscripts held at Kells, would be transferred to a safer location at Dublin Castle and then entrusted to the care of Trinity College in Dublin, which was then a center of learning and scholarship and could provide greater security and preservation for such a natural treasure. Since its arrival at Trinity College, the Book of Kells has been meticulously preserved and studied. Today, it is housed in the college's old library, where it remains one of Ireland's most celebrated cultural artifacts, attracting visitors from around the world who come to marvel at its artistry and historical significance. This transfer not only ensured the survival of the manuscript, but through centuries of change, but it also made it accessible to generations of scholars and the public, and secured the Book of Kells' legacy as a symbol of Ireland's artistic and spiritual heritage. You can go visit the manuscript yourself online, and actually it might be a better way to actually explore some of the intricate details. You can find it at the website, and it's basically, if you look under digitalcollections.tcd.ie, concern/works, and you'll find your way there to the actual complete imagery and digital collection. Now, in any case, when you go through the pages, about 800 of them, I guess, there was one page that stands out to many as the most central and complex part of the whole manuscript. It's called the chi rho page for the Greek symbols chi and rho. Its catalog is folio 34R. It's so popular that the gift shop at Trinity made a refrigerator magnet from it. And don't you know, I collect those silly things. I bought one and it haunted me. I couldn't understand even the characters. So let's dig into that now. Yes, and then you'll notice bingo. Right out there, it pops at you. Look at the Triskeli, or the Triskelion, as it's sometimes called. The Trinity, from Neolithic through Celtic, through Christianity, all interwoven in Celtic knots. And that is what makes it particularly Irish and Celtic, are these knots that interweave images so that they're all part of a unifying field or central force. And think of it then as really the combination of layers of beliefs and symbols that are all being combined to spread the word of the gospel that the birth of Christ is coming not independent of what's gone before, but woven in to what is being manifested now as understood, or as could be understood by ancient beliefs and customs into a new age.
And the actual manuscript is only 13 by 10 inches big. So you can see this is lavishly decorated, and this is 30 by 36 inches. So the original was tiny. It is insane how much detail is in it. But the actual manuscript features the 4 Gospels, and it's got some preliminary matter in the front. And then as you get into the Gospels, the entire manuscript is written out with beautiful calligraphy. But when you get to the Gospel of Matthew, there's this carpet page for like the second half of the first chapter of Matthew. Matthew starts with this whole bit about like Christ's genealogy, and then there's a section, the first time that Christ's name is mentioned in the Gospels, and in Latin, which is what the Book of Kells was written in, it's Christi autem generatio sicurat, which is the birth of Christ happened in this way. And then it gets into the story of the Annunciation and the Incarnation. So the actual page here, it's not a true carpet page because it's not just decorative. This actually has some writing in it. This is chi rho iota, so it's kind of like an X, a P, and an I. This is actually like a super stylized X shape. And these are the Greek letters. The chi rho is used a lot just to represent Christ's name, like throughout Christian history. And so this is like an illuminated page with this lavish decoration of Christ's name. And then down here it gets into the rest of that verse from Matthew. And so it's just an insane amount of detail, and I have learned so much from reproducing it. It's Celtic knotwork in the insular style, and so you're going to see all of these incredibly complex, like layers on layers on layers of detail. So you have the letters that like create the broad strokes of the design, but as you get in closer, you're going to notice just like all of this gorgeous knotwork, there's animals all over the place, animals of the earth, of the air, of the sea, and this is supposed to represent like the word's creation, God's creation. And it's an illuminated manuscript, and so that plays a lot into it. There's a lot of cultural and religious history with illuminated manuscripts and the art being used in service of God's word and the service of Logos. And really illuminating the Word of God through art.
The very minute detail and rather dull contrast make viewing the Cairo page as well as a direct view of all the original pages in the manuscript underwhelming. But with photo enhancement and enlargement, the magic starts to be revealed. Then understanding the symbolism further intensifies the experience. Notice how humanoid heads are part of the knots and cords weaving in and out. A depiction of the apostles or Jesus could be the reference. And finally, I just have to share one aspect of synchronicity here that's so unbelievable that I've added it to the very end of this talk. And that is this little pamphlet here, this brochure about Celtic hot tubs. Celtic hot tubs. What does that have to do with my talk? I mean, okay, I'm getting a hot tub, but look at this. Triskelion hydrotherapy system. Can you believe it? I didn't even read this carefully until just a week ago. It talks about the Celtic journey. It talks about the origin of this culture, and they take the symbols and they take the triskelion to mean a symbol of spirit, mind, and body. And that is part of their pitch that says their turbo burst whirlpool system offers a positive therapy benefiting from the rotating body of water within the hot tubs. It's the full collection of the triskelion jets that vary in size and style, resulting in a targeted pinpoint therapy. The primary benefits is to improve your spirit, mind, and body. Unbelievable.